This is one idea I've had about this pack. This is something I think could be kind of cool because tied into this active career, a big change, you guys. This is a big change and it could lead to a really big opportunity in the game. And it's the fact that your sim doesn't have to leave the lot when school ends. So, hi, I'm Jason Sterling, and it's that time. It's time to go back to school in The Sims 4 for the last part of the summer here in 2022. So let's jump right in. I'm going to take a before look at this pack based on the live stream. So we'll use pictures and video from the live stream and look at what this pack has on offer, what questions are still left after seeing the live stream, and then compare it to what we actually get next week. High school is treated as an active career for teenagers, which is very much to its credit, and also to its credit, you can send more than one person to work. So far with active careers, we've always been able to only send one sim at a time, and the other sims in the household were, of course, left to their own devices. But with high school, you can send as many teenagers as you want, well, or up to eight without mods, right, in a household, to school and control them all, switch back and forth while you're there to do the activities. This was a brand new mechanism that is built basically from the ground up for this pack. So it doesn't affect the existing career structure, but at least it is here for high school, very much to the credit of the Sims team that they put in the effort to make sure we have that bit of realism. If you've got more than one kid in your household, they can all go to school at the same time. Now, your Sims are going to go to high school in Copperdale. That is the only place in the Sims universe that will have a high school, much in the fashion of university. I'm sure there were different sort of programming technicalities for doing that, mostly involving resources, which, of course, resources means money. So they weren't given a big enough budget in order to spread this particular development, this particular add-on to all the worlds where you could just put a high school wherever you want. It would require the extra programming of saying, okay, which school do you want your Sims to go to and seeing them each day. So I know it introduces some complexities. So your Sims are going to school in Copperdale no matter where they may live. Copperdale has two lots. There is a particular neighborhood called, I had to look that one up. I keep forgetting the names, but it's called Rock Ridge Heights. That is basically school zone. That's the school zone. There's two lots there. One is 64 by 64 with the primary high school. One looks to be maybe 30 by 40, which is where the auditorium is. Both of those have to be right there. Both of those have to be right there. There's also a sort of public area that is a large sports field. The sports field is largely unusable. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's largely unusable for the game that you would normally play on it. There is a festival that takes place there that we'll touch on, and there's also, you can practice cheerleading there, stuff like that. Kind of throw the football around, maybe learn to do tricks with the football, but you're not going to actually be playing football. And when I say football, I'm speaking to the American version of that term. Kind of close to rugby, right? If you're in Europe, not soccer, not kicking the ball on the field, but throwing the ball across the field, the American version of football. The 64 by 64 lot that contains the main high school building can be completely demolished and rebuilt. I suspect along the ways that a bar is built where you have certain requirements that you have to have in place in order for the building to actually work in your Sims to actually be able to use it. That's my suspicion, because I know you can knock the whole thing down and you can rebuild it, but I also feel like if you didn't have certain key items there, then high school's not going to work. The auditorium, I'm a little less clear on. I know that you can change the core of the auditorium, say for prom. You can set prom to look like you want prom to look. Again, I suspect you're going to need certain key items in place for it to actual work, right? Right. The auditorium is set up much like the community lots from Eco Living, where they do double or quadruple duty. So they're hot swappable, where you can change it into what you need to use it for at that moment, whether it's prom or graduation. I think there are two other activities you can do there. For some reason, I feel like there's 4 things you can do in the auditorium building. Those two are the only two I know for certain, though, from the live stream. And they didn't actually do graduation in the live stream but I know it takes place there. Now, for most of us in real life, the primary point of high school was to go to class, and there are classes in this high school as part of the active career setup. You can choose 2 different subjects for classes, and I think there's a third subject that's more of like a planning period or like a work period, a sort of free time period, right? Now, during the live scream, during the live stream, we were all so excited, we were screaming. During the live stream, the sim in question during that stream went to the same classroom for both classes, even though there were 2 classrooms set up with desk and 2 additional classrooms set up on the second floor for activities. In this case, music was shown on the live stream, though I suppose you could set one up as a home economics class or a shop class or whatever. Now, also, in both of those classes, it was the same teacher each time. Now, is that a glitch? Is that the way it's always going to work? I don't know. It's a little bit unrealistic that you have the same teacher in high school and the same classroom each time, except let me give the Sims team credit here where credit is due. In my state of Oklahoma, there are still high schools that would have had that, that the high school, the graduating class, the entire grade had and has only 20 people in it. So when you only have 20 people, you only need one classroom. You only need 1 or 2 teachers. And so, yeah, that does make sense from a very rural perspective, which Copperdale does appear to be a very rural town. We'll touch on that during the world tour. Okay, class itself, not much seems to happen here. I'm going to be quite honest. They really treat it much like a rabbit hole. It's not a rabbit hole. Your sim is viewable. You can see the class. The teacher is making motions, but they treat it like a rabbit hole. And instead of having options on what you can actually do, like click on your sim, talk, pass notes, get on your phone, read your book, stuff like take notes, stuff like that. You get what I call the choose your own adventure cards, where a little card pops up and it says, your sim, blah, blah, blah. What do you want to do, right? I'll put an example here off to the side. Now, this is a very good example of a big drawback to this setup. They set it up as an active career. They treat it as a rabbit hole. So the card says, hey, special speaker comes in. Should your sim use their phone while they're speaking and risk getting caught? And you make your choice, and then you get the outcome. Either you're caught or not caught, right? Okay. So the big drawback here is that you can see what's going on. There is no special speaker in that class. It is just the same teacher teaching at the same board, and your sim doesn't get out his phone and do anything on it. So what you're seeing and what you're choosing has absolutely nothing to do with the options and the scenario you've been presented with. I think that's a real drawback here, that you're going to make an active career and then treat it as a rabbit hole. There is an old saying in movie making, show me, don't tell me, right? Show me the action, don't tell me the action. The fact of the matter is, if I want to read the action and imagine what's going on instead of actually doing it, I could just read a book and not play a video game, video being the operative word here. So that's how it's treated, and that's what I do not like about it. There doesn't seem to be anything else going on in class. Nothing. I mean, you just sit there. During the stream, they really sped through the classroom period because you can't do anything. All they do is sit there and stare at the teacher, and that's what you're going to end up doing too. So even though it's an active career, there's not anything to do. Now, there's nothing to do in class. You can choose several different subjects. I'm checking here. There was no list given of those subjects. I just know you can choose 2 classes and you have kind of a free period, right? Right. Now, one thing I do like about this particular setup is the decor, because you can choose either brand new type furniture, right? Stuff that looks brand new. Or you can choose furniture that's more like I had in high school. At least one of them. One high school was new, and I'm doing builds of these, the newer high school and then the old high school. The old high school, of course, had kind of like worn out crap, right? a whole bunch of stuff that had been carved into and written all over and generally just kind of vandalized. So I do like that. I do like, at least if you want to rebuild the school, you can give it a sort of set structure that looks more like what maybe you had. And despite the fact that it is a pretty sedate experience going to class, you do have an increase in skills while you're in class. And I will say this, I know that it's going to be inherently boring watching someone going to class and learning like you would in real life. I get that. I do. I don't think there's much to make that part of it interesting. But like I said, I think that if you could click on your sim and say, get on your phone, and then actually get in trouble from the teacher, where the teacher notices, walks over to your desk and sends you to the office, or just tells you come back for detention, and then you have detention later, that would be better. Or, so like slip note to my friend, or play game on my phone, or even, like I said, study or take notes. Even if you could click and say take notes, and then you get a better grade later on the test or something, that would have been much better here. But I do understand, and I do concede that, yeah, it's kind of hard to make learning fun when most learning is kind of boring. Not fun anyway. I did not like high school, you guys. I should put that disclaimer at the front of this video. In fact, I might go and put this disclaimer at the front of the video. I did not like high school. I did not have any fun. And I want to go to high school again in The Sims 4 just so I can make it fun and have a good time. That includes class. One thing that might be fun that you can do in class would be to prank the whiteboard. The teacher cannot be present, naturally. Thank God. Thank God you can't do that in front of her, right? And she just doesn't notice. No, you can't go and prank the whiteboard and get detention, right? That is a lot of fun, I think, or a fun addition to the classroom structure, and a hint at what maybe it could have been. That is a good idea. They tried to do it in the stream and they couldn't get the teacher to leave, and I know they were operating under pretty tight time controls. I imagine under normal circumstances, when you're on your free period or before school, you're going to want to watch when the teacher's not in the room, go in there and prank the whiteboard. That would be some fun. Okay, like I said, aside from class, you're going to have kind of your free period, your learning period, and you have lunch, right? Lunch is super long in the game, and I kind of get that because eating takes a long time in The Sims, and you're going to need a longer lunch period than you would have in real life. And you want to be able to do some things maybe more fun with your friends during lunch than you could in real life. So I get kind of having a little bit longer lunch period in there. That's fine. Now, let me tell you, the kind of reasoning that they went into during the live stream for why lunch is so long and why there's a lot of hallway time and kind of free period time is they're focusing on the drama of high school, the stuff that takes place in the hallways, and the real life sort of interactions that take place in the hallways, and the sort of coming of age movie story stuff. And what was some of the other stuff? Oh yes, seeing friends getting in fights, stuff in a coming of age film. And I get that, I do. But in reality, that stuff doesn't actually take place in the hallways all that much, where you're usually only there for about 5 minutes in between classes. That stuff takes place in class. Okay, that's where a lot of the drama takes place in class. Slipping notes back and forth. I hate you. I wish you were dead. And you pass it over to them, right? I'm going to kick your ass after school, and you pass it over to them. I'd never kicked anyone's ass. I got my ass kicked a couple of times, but I'd never kicked anyone's ass. But that's kind of where that happens. So they have transferred that from the classroom out into the hallway, into the lunch period. Also, I don't know, there's always this talk about drama, right? It's in their marketing a lot. Play The Sims for the drama. I don't really actually see that much drama in the game. It's not nearly as dramatic as, say, The Sims 2 was, or even The Sims 3. It's really not. I mean, you see Sims kind of get mad and stomp there in the little red curse symbols go above their heads, right? You never really see them go up to someone very often and just slap the shit out of them like you would in Sims 2. So I never really see that much drama in the game. But okay, so high school's all about the drama, right? And the coming of age story. I do get that. And again, I will say this to their credit. They didn't actually call this the high school pack. They called this the high school years pack. Okay, so be very careful with your titling, you guys. When we read it, we say, oh, it's high school. No, it's high school years. That's deliberate because the high school is not the whole thing that they're trying to focus on here. Maybe it should have been, but it's not. It's about a whole bunch of things that fit into teenage years. It's kind of a teenage focused pack, which in 8 years we really haven't had yet. You know, this is the first time we're really getting a teen focused pack. So they've tried to fit a lot into it, and maybe too much. We're going to touch on that, but that's the thing. So the drama in the hallways, that's why everything else is so long outside of class. And there are some things to do with your kids in the hall. That's a reference to an old television show from like the 90s, Kids in the Hall, and that I watched when I was younger. But there is other things to do than just stay in the hall and talk. You have interactive lockers, which I really like. I think that's very cool, very realistic. You can decorate them, but they're all preset decorations. I don't love that. I would rather be able to put my own postcards there, my own pictures there. Maybe there'll be a mod. I don't like to fall back on mods, and I don't like to suggest that as a solution. I like stuff that's actually in the game, but maybe there'll be a mod in the future. Or hell, I imagine with build mode and cheats, I could probably stick stuff in the locker, right? Try to make it look a little more like my own. But you do have those. Those are cool. You can prank the lockers. I don't know that you get in trouble for pranking the lockers. You should get in trouble for pranking the lockers. You can also get in trouble for truancy. Let's throw that in here. If you don't go to school or you skip class and stuff, you can also get in trouble for truancy. I don't know what form it takes. I'm going to assume detention. That's probably our big trouble. Maybe you get grounded at home as well, because it does seem like you're going to be able to get grounded at home, because then you can sneak out later. That's another video. But as you know, you can sneak out the house later. Now, in addition, of course, you can also do cheerleading in this game using a mat, much in the same fashion of the dancing skill from Get Together, right? That's fine with me, because most cheerleading kind of does take place on a mat like that, at least like when you're practicing. Now, granted, out on a field, they don't drag a big mat out there for the cheerleaders. You just do it on the grass, but it looks cool, and it's got some great new animations, and looks like it's going to be a fun new activity and something to do during school. I hope I can drag it into a gym and not just have it out on the field, and I think I can actually, but you have that, and you have the football. Both of these tie into clubs, by the way. I've already touched on football. You basically just throw it back and forth, spin it on your finger, kind of learn tricks. Both of these tie into clubs, right? So you can join cheerleading club and football club. You can also join computer club, and I'm doing a lot of quotes because, you know, I'm like computer club and chess club, right? Which is going to be probably a sort of preset version of the clubs we kind of already have with Get Together. And I would think that you could set up other clubs that could nominally be considered in. I did that again. I got to stop doing that. Not everything needs to be in quotes, but I feel that way a lot sometimes when I'm doing reviews, like kind of like, well, this is the deal. Kind of nominally could be for high school, right? So you could put together all sorts of clubs if you do have Get Together. Okay, you could do that for a long time, but maybe high school, this pack will kind of spur you into coming up with some other clubs and some other ideas. Maybe a thrift store club, right? Where you guys go to thrift stores as a club and you try to put together the best outfit. Coming up in another video, Thrifty Tea, the thrift store / boba tea location. So I do think you could do that. And this is also tied into high school, though these 4 clubs we're talking about right now that you do technically after school. Though I suppose you could practice chess, go to the computer lab, stuff like that to up your skill while you're at school. Okay, though this is a teen-focused pack and it's mostly teens at high school, there are some adults at high school. Thankfully, since there are adults at high school, not very many, but there were a few. There was the teacher. I think there might have been 2 teachers. I just don't think we really interacted with the other one in the live stream for some reason. I think there were 2 teachers. There was a principal. There was a janitor, which that's a nice addition. I'm glad they have a janitor kind of wandering around cleaning things. He was running around always cleaning stuff. That's very realistic. We all know the creepy janitor from high school. And we all know the really hot janitor from high school that's in all the movies, right? That never came true. I never had a really hot janitor in high school. I touched on this in another video. I did have a really hot teacher, the Puerto Rican Ken doll. He was the computer science teacher. And that was a nickname that a lot of the girls and some of the guys had for him, was the Puerto Rican Ken doll. And he was really, really hot. But he was the computer science teacher. But I didn't have any hot janitors. I think I'm going to try to make the janitor hot in my game somehow. I don't know how. Probably I can't. But I'm going to try. Maybe I'll click on him and go into cast and fix him, right? That's what I want to do. But the janitor was there, and then the cafeteria person, the cafeteria server, right? So those were the adults in school. They didn't show any interactions with the adults, but I know you can interact with them because one of the requirements for the day's activities as part of the active career is like friendly interactions with, an adult at school, I think I said, or something like that. Now, I would love, and this would be a whole lot more realistic if it said mean interactions. Like if your sim goes to school that day and they're in a bad mood, right? Because sometimes you wake up on the wrong side of that bed and you are not down with going to school, but you have to go to school because if you don't go to school, you're going to be truant and they're probably going to throw your parents in jail or take away their welfare or something. I don't know what they do, but they're going to, actually they do that in some states. They take away, like if you're on welfare, they take away your welfare or something, I think. But you know what I'm saying here. You wake up and you are not in a good mood and you go to school and you don't feel like being friendly to a teacher that day or friendly to the principal. That's what he tells us. The principal's like your pal. He's your principal. Aha. Well, you don't feel like being friends with your pal that day. You feel like being mean, saying something mean. So I would love it if sometimes it pops up, be mean. Do a mean interaction with your teacher today or the janitor or something like that. Now, we touched on consequences with detention in high school. There's also another consequence. You can not graduate from high school. And according to the Sims team during the stream, that will lead to consequences in your adult life. Like certain careers might be closed to you and you would be unable to go to university. That's what they say. Now, is it going to work out that way? I don't know. But that is what they say. And that is kind of a nice consequence. I do like that. The idea that it's a little more real world like that. You can overcome that if you don't graduate from high school. You can go back and take high school online as an adult. I guess to keep adults out of high school, right? So you can go and go back to high school as an adult. In real life, you probably go to a night high school or something. But you can also just go take a test to graduate high school in my state called a GED, right? Graduation Equivalent Diplomacy, or diploma. But so you take a test and then you essentially do graduate high school as an adult. And then those careers will maybe more open up to you, or you could go to university at that point. And also they kind of touched on the idea that if you have a high enough skill set, so if you get your skills up high enough, that also could overcome some of the limitations you would have with careers, right? So that would overcome that impediment to having a certain career that you don't have a high school degree because your skill set is high enough. Now, what's the big thing they showed that takes place in the auditorium? Not graduation, but prom. I would have liked to have seen graduation because I really want to know how they've set that up. I'm afraid it's going to be, I don't know, benign? Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm afraid there's not going to be much to it. I hope that there is. It kind of gives the impression in the trailers of maybe a valedictorian being there, and can that happen? If your sim gets straight A's, if they study really hard, can they be made valedictorian, as they go across the stage? That would be great. Can you give a speech? That would be great, but I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think it's going to be pretty benign, but they did show prom. Now, prom's a pretty typical party setup. You have all these things you need to do to have a successful prom. It takes place in the auditorium and appears to be locked to the auditorium. Now, in real life, in a lot of communities like my own, we have prom outside of the high school. We have it at a local venue, a local event center, convention center, something like that. That's what I would have really liked in the game. And they do say during the live stream that prom is fully customizable. I think that's a little bit of a slip because they don't give any indication of that in the live stream. It is fully customizable in that you can change the decor into anything you want. And that's what they touched on in both the trailers and the live stream. I don't see any evidence that you could set like specific activities for the prom, like you could with, say, a wedding. I don't see any evidence you could set specific food and stuff for the prom like you can for a wedding. But my hope is that you can. My hope is that once the game gets here, you're going to be able to set it up as a party like any other party. And that also is more real to life. I mean, there was usually a prom committee made up of both students and adults for putting together the prom, and it involved a whole lot more than just the decorations. So if we are just limited to just decor, I'm going to consider that a drawback as far as the prom party goes. I think we should have full control over prom, be able to set it up exactly as we want to do with the activities we want to do at our prom, because a lot of this is definitely going back to relive a certain period in life, right? To relive it in a way that maybe would have been better, maybe would have been better than what we had the first time around. I did not go to prom the first time around, needless to say, maybe because I was gay in high school and pretty open about it. Like, I didn't have a big coming out thing about it, but it was a pretty much known fact that I was gay in high school. And like I said, I got actually my ass kicked twice because of that. But, so I didn't go to prom. Now I went to other high school parties and stuff, but I did not go to prom. I didn't want to go to prom stag, right? I didn't want to go to prom just on my own. What are you going to do at prom by yourself? No, I didn't go to prom. So, it'd be nice in game to go to prom the way I want it to be. Hell, if I'm going to go back and do it again, I'm going to set up exactly how I want it, right? So if we can't do that, I do consider that a drawback. But prom itself looked fun enough. You have like a whole list of things to do. Obviously, eat, dance. There's a new sort of slow dance for Sims. It's a little more awkward-y, sort of that teenage holding the waist, kind of swaying type of dance. You can vote on the prom royalty. There's only one, so you either have a king or a queen, just one. And you can vote on a sort of prom jester, like the comedian, which is a nice addition because I don't remember anything like that when I was in school, but I like it in this case. I like the fact that they said, hey, you know what? So what, you're not the king or queen, come and be the jester. We all like the jester better anyway. I always like the class clown a whole hell of a lot better than I would have liked the prom king, right? So that was a really nice addition, a nice twist to that, and you can do that. Obviously, you can eat, have something to drink. There's a photo booth. The photo booth we'll touch on more in depth later, but I'll say this. It's kind of like a rabbit hole. You don't really get to pose. You can choose, like happy pose or funny pose, and then I guess a picture comes out. Now, here's a weird thing. During the live stream, he sent his Sims in to do it. We didn't see any picture from it. So I hope we get a picture. I hope it's not like Yamachan where you do a selfie and then it doesn't exist, right? But in the live stream, there was no picture shown. And the weird thing was, it was kind of a requirement on the requirements board for a successful prom. I don't remember seeing that disappear. So they went into the photo booth and then it didn't count, maybe. Was that a glitch? Will that be fixed? It could be fixed. If it was a glitch, it could be fixed. I mean, they still have at that point, they said maybe 2 weeks before release. And believe me, they work on it right until the very end. And I am not joking. They seriously do. Anyone who doubts that, let me put that to rest right now. They seriously work on that, and glitches and stuff that come up and that people kind of find early on, they do work on that right to the very last moment. So that update for that pack when it comes out will include that fix and people won't ever have to deal with it, right? They do that. So if that is a glitch and that's what happened, hopefully, I'm sure that will be fixed. That's a major part of the pack. Now, like I said, it's a pretty standard and typical party setup. You've got the regular list of things to do to have a successful party. Now, this is one thing I thought might be fun. We'll see if it offers it as like something to do at the party. Just something. Now, this is how I would set up my prom, you guys. Just so you know, just mine and Mises. I'm going to put maybe like a water slide in at my prom, right? Put a water slide in there. Put a bowling alley in there. I don't know. But I'm thinking I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to really play it up. Maybe put some crazy stuff in there and do something really fun. If I'm going to have a video prom, I'm going to stick TVs everywhere and video games. I'm going to have like some fun with it. So there is some chance, some opportunity to have some real fun with it and maybe break the box, right? Get outside of that box for prom, because you can, at least, if you can do decor, And you can do decor. You can put whatever you want in there. Miscellaneous items tied to the high school. One is that you arrive at the school. In front of the school is a bus. You do not get off the bus. You do not get onto the bus. And in fact, I'm just going to say it here. And you know, God love them. I know they don't have a lot of time. And I know EA does not give them anywhere near enough money to do these packs. I know that. You know that too. But the bus didn't look great. It did not look great. It looks unfinished, and it might be unfinished. You guys, it might be unfinished. It might also be finished. And I appreciate the fact they threw that in for realism, but at the end of the day, you don't get on and off the bus. The bus does not pick you up. It's just there. It's just an object that's sitting there. So, you know, don't get your hopes up. Okay, school activities are set into the typical Sims calendar of activities. I'm really curious if this will be changeable, if you'll be able to alter this to the calendar system, like you can add parties and stuff to the calendar system right now in the live stream. It showed prom at the end of every single week. Now, a few people kind of criticize that, and I get that. I get where they're coming from. But I will say this, if high school is working like university, then each week is kind of the equivalent of maybe a semester or the equivalent of maybe a year, right? So, yeah, you would have a big party at the end of every year. It might not be called prom, but we would typically have 2 or 3 parties throughout the year. So maybe it's to replicate that, this idea of a year-end party at the end of the week, because that's kind of how The Sims works time-wise. So I'm going to give them a break on that and say that that does actually make sense, because we would have had a party at the end of each semester or at the end of the year. Only in junior and senior years did we call it prom. Freshman and sophomore years, of course, we didn't. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a break there, but I wonder if that's going to be changeable, or if you can throw a party in the middle at high school. How much control are we going to have with those things through the calendar system? But right now, everything is listed on the calendar that you should do during your day, high school included. That calendar does bring up a good point. When does high school end? Does it have a natural beginning and end? Is there a point where you are finished? Can you adjust that? You know, I think with university, I mean, really, it's pretty set, right? You cannot really adjust it. You start, you end. And I wonder if high school, I suspect it's going to be like that. It's not really going to be open-ended where you can be there forever. Right? Maybe you could. I don't know. If you have a mod and you just put time on hold, maybe you could. But I think it's going to have a beginning and an end. And so probably 4 weeks, 1 week for each year. Maybe. That's kind of my thought on that. And my thought on that is that's fine. That's fine. It should have a natural beginning and a natural end. Probably should not be open-ended. I mean, for a lot of us with gameplay and with storytelling, we may want more open-ended because we want more time to explore certain stories and certain ideas. So hopefully there is a way of maybe going in like with seasons and saying high school should be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks. Hopefully that will be the case. One thing that's kind of not okay is that you can't establish a school uniform and thereby kind of set up a private school environment. Or I can see some people wanting to set up Hogwarts and making a sort of magic school with the stuff from Realm of Magic. That makes sense to me, you guys. Some people may want to do that. And if you want to do that, you might want to establish a uniform like they have in Hogwarts, right? Of course. Well, you can't do that. You can set your sim to wear uniforms, but not every sim in high school to wear the uniform. And I don't really know why, because you can set uniforms for retail and you can set uniforms. I mean, there's uniforms set for the active career. It's just been so long since I did an active career. I can't remember if you could change those or not, but I know they had uniforms, right? So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to have it for high school, except once again, it would have taken maybe a little extra programming time. And that was time they were not allotted to have. So I don't think that's okay. I don't really like that. I think saying, oh, yeah, your sim showed up in a uniform for school, but none of the rest of them did. Does that make sense? My guess will be MC Command Center will probably have an option. They'll probably mod that in if you don't mind doing mods. I don't like suggesting that. It should be in game, but probably MC Command Center might set that up where you'll have that option. I fully kind of expect that, but I also fully kind of expect it should have just been in game to begin with. Now, to finish this off, this is one idea I've had about this pack. This is something I think could be kind of cool because tied into this active career, a big change, you guys. This is a big change, and it could lead to a really big opportunity in the game. And it's the fact that your sim doesn't have to leave the lot when school ends. So, could you effectively set this up as a boarding school, right? If you build a little building or a little wing onto your high school that's a dormitory style wing, a la Hogwarts is what I'm thinking here again, right? Okay, could they just stay there and sleep there? Because I think they can. I think they don't ever actually have to leave. Much like a lot of public lots, much like park lots, they don't actually have to leave, you guys. I think we'll be able to have an actual boarding type school here. Now, you won't be able to do the costumes. You won't be able to do the uniforms. And I'm going to guess that you might eventually be all by yourself, right? Or just you and your siblings. So that might screw it up. But I don't know. I mean, if you never leave, will the other Sims stay there? My thought is if there's not food and a place to sleep and all, then they won't. They'll eventually go home to satisfy their needs, right? The NPCs. But if maybe not, maybe as long as you're already there, there might always be some people there. And if nothing else, it might work great for storytelling because if your Sim and your Sim's families are there, then maybe everyone else would stay there. And would you be able to ask your friends, your teenage friends, if they want to stay the night at the high school every day so that they would stay there too? I don't know, but this does feel to me like an opportunity. If for nothing else for storytelling, I was actually pretty excited when it kind of occurred to me like, hey, they don't have to leave, right? They are not forced off the lot and forced home like with a standard active career. And they were there well into the night, with the festival. So just mull that over, you guys. You might want to start building a little dormitory if you're into storytelling or if you just want to try this out. Okay, so that's high school. In the high school years, I have some other videos coming down the pike. Cast built by the world and activities outside of high school, of course. But let me say real quick, the high school portion of this pack is pretty good. It is not excellent. It suffers from an over-reliance on rabbit holes, even though it's not a rabbit hole, you guys. It suffers from an over-reliance on that mechanism, and I'm just going to say it right out front. Now, am I probably going to have fun going to high school? I think I am. I think I am going to have fun. I'm going to design the school my way and the way I want it to be done. So I do think I'm going to have a good time with the high school part of this pack. But it's a missed opportunity. No uniforms is a missed opportunity. Nothing to do in class is a missed opportunity. That should have been set up where you could at least do interactions we can do anyway, like check my phone and stuff in class. That should be set up to do that in class. And having rabbit hole options that have nothing to do with what you're looking at on the screen makes no sense and breaks the immersion and should not have been done. That's what I'm going to say right there. Now, great. Yeah, you can make choices that maybe influence your ultimate outcome. Those choices should be active choices. The big complaint with The Sims 4 is always from the gameplay crowd that there's nothing to do. Rabbit holes are nothing to do. Making a choice where all you do is read and then read the outcome of that, that's a book. Okay, that's a choose your own adventure book. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. Choose your own adventure. You read and it has some, options at the bottom. It says, do you want to go into the cave or not go into the cave, right? Flip to these pages. That's a choose your own adventure book. And I don't want to spend $40 on a choose your own adventure book. I don't. Game players, people who are there to play the game exclusively, that's not me. I like to build, I like to tell stories and play the game. So that's why the packs often satisfy someone like me and a lot of people in the Sims community more than some of the other type of players. Great, I get that. Game players have always said, it's boring, there's nothing to do. That's because it's not active. It's not active. You need active gameplay for people to read it as actually gameplay, you guys. And so that's a big drawback here. But overall, for someone like me, you're into building, you're into game playing, and you're into storytelling. For someone like me, if you're like me, you're probably going to like this. You're probably going to have fun with it. You're probably going to have fun taking your Sim back to high school, whether it's just a Sim in your game or yourself, and having fun like you wanted to have fun back in the day in a more idealized environment. So I'm going to give it a pretty good, I'm going to give it like a B, like a solid B, as a grade, maybe I'll grade all of it. That just popped in my head. I'm going to grade all of it. So my grade on this for the high school portion of high school years is a solid B. Solid B. Yeah, above average. I'm going to say above average. Not excellent. It could have been excellent, you guys, but I'm going to give you the solid B. And I do think if you're like me, you're probably going to enjoy it, and I'm probably going to really enjoy it. And I would really enjoy if you would hit like, subscribe, and notify, and we'll see what I think about the rest of the stuff in this pack coming up in a couple of future videos. And in the meantime, as far as this pack goes and this video goes, I know it was kind of long. It was kind of long this time. There was a lot to go over, and there's a lot to go over in this pack. But for this time, thanks for watching.